to kid Red. You know, Red has a short fuse.
Oh, no kidding.
And I loved to kid him. I know that night he was so mad we'd won the, Tom had won the fine hearted stake. I think this was the last time I rode him. That I showed because I got hurt. And I brought this colt when he was a yearling and gaited him myself. And he would be one of my favorite horses. He even made that old woman look good. Today, half these horses aren't slow gait. Isn't that beautiful? The racket, slow racket, and I think the slow gait is the most stylish, prettiest, most comfortable gait there is. I was really nervous that night.
Oh, come on now, ladies and gentlemen, if you please, this is the American Royal, the British Show
Now, you told me about French Commander. There's always exceptions. When you start those colts, start them barefooted, Racken?
Yeah, if some of them you do. It all depends, I think, on how much you've done with them and how good a mouth you've got on. You know, I think everything is the mouth, and if your horse is green, he's going to be green with a curb bit or a snaffle bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then you're going to have to go to your snaffle to gait him. But there's nothing to gait in a horse.
Now, how old were you when you were with Majors?
About 12.
That young?
Mm-hmm.
Take me on from 12 to 20.
Well,
12 to 18.
Major Hugh had a great saddlebred gelding that he wasn't the prettiest thing in the world, but he could fly. And so to reward me, if I'd been working extra hard around there, they'd let me ride this horse. And so I did. He's by the Reveler.
Sure. Reveler was at Winganique Farms.
That's right. He was by the Reveler. And we took him down to Platte City, Carl Dempsey's town. Been a lot of good horses coming out of that barn.
You betcha.
Robin. So I talked him into letting me show him. My folks didn't have any money, but they had a lot of heart for me to show these horses. So that makes me cry. So
I'm trying to.
So my mom bought a little riding suit from Gail Gray, and they took it all down for me, a little green riding suit. And
I like these. Her riding suit was, and the bridles. This one doesn't even have a canvas knot. That's very funny. He has a full ride along without a canvas. I don't know what horse that is. Mom would trade horses all the time. She started out with a pony, and then she'd take it home and fix it and take it back to wherever she bought it from and sell it at some stockyard that they traded horses at. So that's how she kind of got into being a horse trader. She was probably 14 maybe. And she would go to she would tell me stories where she would go to this stockyard or this auction, whatever it was, and get a pony and ride it back to the barn, trade it for a couple weeks, ride it back to the auction, sell it and make money, and buy another one. And she would continue to do that. So
sold them, made money.
Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Sold them and make money. That's Donna's byword, and I love her for it. Who was the all-time greatest influence on you as a horse trainer? Who do you think taught you the most, helped make you what you are today?
Jane Fay.
Hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Jane Fay. Jane's husband was Lee Fay, and what was that Anacutchit, that stud they had out there?
Empire.
Huh?
Empire. Anacutchit.
Yeah, Anacutchit Empire, you bet. Well, let's talk about Jane for a moment, because you told me you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
When did you meet Jane? How old were you?
I called her on the telephone. She had a great gaited gelding. His name was, oh God, it'll come to me in a minute, I can't. Major Belize. She won the ladies 5-gaited Missouri and Kansas with him in the afternoon at Kansas City. And the ladies' stake, open ladies' stake, was that night. She beat Abercrombie, she beat Gail Gray, she beat everybody. and won the big lady stake with it. She showed him twice.
Twice in one day.
And I made up my mind I was going to have that horse. My folks didn't have that kind of money to buy that horse, but
How much would he been cost?
he would have probably cost at that time about $20,000.
That's quite a bit of money.
So, well, it was at that time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
So I got her phone number out of one of the old horse magazines, and I called her up and I said, I want to buy that horse. And she said, who am I talking to? And I said, you don't know me, but I know that horse, and I really want to buy that horse.
And how old were you?
I was about 14.
Really, that young, huh?
Yeah, 14 or 15. Well, you know, she just took a liking to me, and so I called her every once in a while. She knew I didn't have any money, but she'd spend the time with me and show that when I called her, she lived in St. Joe, Missouri. They had Lake Contrary stables up there, and she was married to Bud Kinney, I think, to start with.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And then she divorced him and married Lee. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things about it. A lot of people don't know. She was...
That's what this is for.
She was Miller McAfee's girlfriend at the time.
On the side.
Well, in between Bud Kinney and Lee.
Okay.
But Lee was such a gracious man. You knew him. And he
Yeah.
was just, they made a great team. And she taught me things about horses that you just wouldn't believe. She believed, like Roby did, that you could gait a horse with a curb bit on. And you know, Roby gaited all his with that little army bit. And that's the way Jane gaited hers too.
How about you? Did you do some of it?
I did some of it. I got along better the way the old man taught me out on the road. I was always one to ride a horse a lot more with a snaffle than I did with a curb.
Dad was a curb bit man. I mean, he did things with a horse that nobody else could do. I don't know if it was his stature or it was just his God-given talents that way he would raise a horse up just using a curb bit, elevate him, and
Mother was very much a snaffle bit person. Always snaffle bit. Rarely put a curb bit in a horse's mouth. Very rare. I tend to be a little bit more like Mother in the sense that I figure as long as you can ride him in a snaffle, you can put the curb on him. She was really big with basically the mule bit backwards, and that was her. That's the only bit she really needed ever was a backwards mule bit, and she could pretty much do anything with it. And when it came time for the curb bit, it just hung in their mouth.
Mother and Dad complimented each other. She could prepare one for an amateur. She had such a good eye for a horse and still does. And I think Dad could train anything. He could train a mule to win the gaited stake, but if he was riding it. But she could put the team together, put an amateur on a horse and know it to do well. So I think that's what complemented each other. And she's mostly a snaffle bit person, and Dad was a curb bit person. So I think that those two things, I tried to take those two things from both of them, but they were totally different styles.
Tom and I got in a lot of arguments over this, racking, because I never thought he was so great with a walk trot horse and a harness horse and a pony. Just everything but racking. And I used to call it the coon-ass chicken hop. And you know what I mean? I mean, trying to lift one so, they look beautiful up here, but they can't get their hock under.
Yeah.
And then they get to doing this stuff, and I just can't stand it.